The future of trading card games is here, and you're either going to really, really like it, or you're going to think it's something that's going to destroy the industry forever. Let's not be too dramatic, shall we? Now, you may be an avid TCG player, or you might, like me, be someone who remembers this with great nostalgia from yesteryear. But let's not forget that since trading card games burst onto the scene in 1993, we've seen huge tournaments where there is millions of dollars of prize money at stake, and also a global trading market worth a whopping $3.4 billion. So this is not something to be sniffed at. Well, if everything is going so well, does anything actually need to change? Well, some people think so, and as we look into the future, we may take this humble game amongst friends and open it up into a community of not just hundreds, not just thousands, but possibly millions out there. And you won't even need to leave your living room. Well, what am I talking about? Well, I am talking about moving the trading card game industry into Web3. It's a huge, significant moment, and if you look at something like the rise of esports, for instance, and if we don't educate ourselves on what this future could possibly look like now, you may be missing a huge opportunity in the future, because realistically, we are still really, really early with this. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you through the significance of this new direction, as well as looking at one particular game called the Emergents, which is a trading card game which is exploding via the Tezos blockchain, and looking at just what that is doing and how this whole move and direction could be a really significant game changer, not just for you, but for the industry itself. Now, if you're in any way skeptical about what this future looks like, what I want to do is focus on the positives and bring you that kind of explanation as to why this might not disrupt everything entirely, but bring you in line with what the Web3 narrative is when it comes to this. And it works in 3 different ways. Number 1 is collectability. Now, if we look at NFTs as an example, non-fungible tokens, the idea around collectability is kind of what it stems from. The idea of buying, selling, trading, being part of a community thanks to an asset isn't that far off from what you're doing in the traditional trading card game industry. So actually, if you were to embrace this, it's not actually going to be too dissimilar to what you've been doing before. It's just moving it in a direction that is really reflective of the digital lives that we are beginning to embrace essentially more and more. The next thing to consider is that this whole emergence of this future of the TCG industry and bringing it into its digital depths, shall we say, hasn't actually just come out of nowhere. The Emergents, which is the TCG that we're actually focusing on today, is actually the brainchild of Brian David Marshall, who is an industry thought leader in the world of TCGs and also comic books as well. Now, what he's done is team up with Interpop, which is a marketplace which mints comics, games, and collectible NFTs responsibly on the Tezos blockchain. And together, they've assembled a team of legendary folk in the comic book and also the TCG industry to make sure that this stays as true as possible to those OG fans of trading card games. And the third point that I want to make about this move into Web3 for the TCG industry is that if we look at the Emergents as a great example of this, not a lot actually has changed. All the basic elements of the trading card games that we know and love are still going to be there, but this, as I mentioned before, is that opportunity to play with people all around the world without having to leave your living room. And that is just a great example of how things have evolved and changed since the pandemic and how we're looking at things in a slightly new light. The gameplay on the Emergents itself is engaging, it's smooth, it's actually quite enjoyable overall, and the cards are actually quite simple to understand. The gameplay process is actually pretty clear, and once you've given it a few tries, the artwork, the music, the visuals, the sound effects, they're all really pretty cool. But the big difference, and the thing that's really going to make this stand out, is how blockchain technology and NFTs in particular is going to expand the universe. And a great example of this is going to be the NFT comic book series, because what this is going to do is take that really rich depth of the characters and the storylines and give you something else to really engage with when it comes to this particular game. So if you are a fan, it's just making your experience bigger and better, which I think can't possibly be a bad thing. I don't know, you tell me. So I'm really hoping that this video, in a small nutshell and with one example of many that are going to be coming out there, has really given you a little bit of an insight into the fact that actually taking something, providing it with a digital twin version of it, isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think if you are in the trading card game industry and you are either a player, a creator, or someone who's just got an avid interest in this is going to take you to whole new levels of what your imagination can really do for you and how you can expand that broader horizon of the offering that you can give to players all around the world. And as we start to see more of these kind of digital twins of more traditional pastimes that we're used to, it may seem like an initial uphill battle to embrace the changes that Web3 is offering. But what you'll probably find is that, like with the rise of social media, in not too much time at all, this will soon become something that's really native to you, and actually something that you'll probably enjoy a lot more than in the way that you traditionally did. Now, if you want to learn anything more about the Emergents, and if you actually want to find out more about the Tezos blockchain, then all of the information that I've brought to you here today has actually come from something called the Baking Sheet on Tezos Commons. It's a fantastic newsletter and insight into everything that is happening in the world of Tezos. And for me, it's been a fantastic resource to really expand my knowledge of what Tezos can offer and how things are changing thanks to that ecosystem. Now, the story on the Emergents actually comes from newsletter number 111, so you can go and check that out online if you want to. More reading can be done there. And of course, go and just give the Emergents game a go. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it in the comments. And if you're wanting to find out anything more in a more visual way about the Tezos blockchain, then make sure you check out the videos on the next slide. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you soon.